This is the Bliss Branch Band here with you on Bliss 104.3. As promised, we're going to talk about the brain, one of my favorite subjects. Actually, in fact, I'm going to be talking about something that's happening on March 11th to 12th. That's Friday to Saturday. This Friday to Saturday. My, how March moves. This event is called Brain Boost, and it's organized by Family Flavors and Nakat Ailiye magazines, as well as Mind Matters. It's actually going to include 14 of Jordan's top experts in brain science, communication. They're going to be exploring topics that include, but not limited to, and these are really fascinating because they range from Alzheimer's to COVID in the brain to stress, sleep, another one of my favorite subjects, the importance of money intelligence in the brain. Are you kidding me? Also things like addiction, as well as the importance of play on brain development. And actually, on that note, joining me right now on air is Karma Khalidi. She is an early childhood educator. She's with me right now on the Bliss Branch to talk about the positive effects of play on brain development. Karma, by the way, also writes about this topic and more on in both Family Flavors and Nakat Ailiye magazines. A very good morning to you, Karma.
Hi, Ben. How are you? Good morning.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about this very important topic and about your session in particular at the Brain Boost workshop. You're going to be on Saturday. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'll be there on Saturday from 1:45 till 2:45.
And by the way, this event is going to be happening at the Hussein Cultural Center, and it's being held under the patronage of the Minister of Culture, Her Excellency Haifa Najjar. So it's a really important, I think, occasion for us to learn and to network and to build our understanding of how the brain functions. Karma, tell me a little bit about what will be some of the main themes at your session.
So basically, I'm going to touch on the importance of play to develop a child's mind and brain. And I think this is a topic that's very interesting for parents and educators because play is sometimes underestimated.
And why is it that we underestimate play? I mean, you're talking about children. It sounds kind of like, of course, kids love to play. But, we think of it as maybe a way to fill up their time, to keep them busy. But we don't really know. I mean, I guess for the most part, we don't sit there and actively think, as parents, yes, I need to play with my child because it's going to help their brain development. What is it about play that has such a big impact on the brain?
So basically, in early years circles, as educators, we always say that play is the work of children because from the moment a child is born, I mean, think of a baby and how he or she will immediately grab onto something and put it in their mouth to explore it. And that's what we mean by play. The fact that children are exploring their surroundings, their lives, and investigating the knowledge they could gain from it. So it's serious work, especially since we know that a child's brain develops, like a human brain, develops 90% of its skills and development in the first 5 years of a human life. So imagine how important it is to engage children in meaningful play.
Wow. What can you give, what is, so that, I mean, you bring up something that's interesting that I didn't even consider to be play, when like a child grabs something and just puts it in their mouths, and it's kind of just like instinct almost, it's experimenting. What are some examples of I guess, play then? What do we consider play?
So basically when you think of play, you can think of anything from using Play-Doh or playing pretend with your friends or sliding in the park or just holding a ball and throwing it here and there. So play doesn't look a certain way, to be honest.
Right.
But what I know is that through play, when you use your senses, children use their senses, unlike using a tablet or a screen where they're watching something and only one part of their brain is functioning.
Right.
If a child is playing and holding something and maybe putting it in their mouth or smelling it and gaining certain emotions, so they're using all their senses, their neural pathways are able to connect. And this is the advantage of play, that children are able to actually develop their brain physically, like literally.
Wow.
And I never forgot a a study that I came across when I was in my uni years, where they showed a child who was engaged in play, and this child was 3 years. We had a scan of a child's brain who was, always engaged in play, loved, and not neglected, and a scan of a child's brain who was neglected. And the size of the child whose neglected brain was much smaller than the other.
Wow, so there's like a physical impact as well. That's
absolutely.
That's actually bizarre. I'd never even. I mean, we kind of think about it behaviorally, but it literally affects the brain, and I mean, you can actually see that. That's wild to me. You see that physically. So there's the size of the brain, but when we're talking about some of the skills that can be developed through play, what are we talking about? What kind of skill sets can a child develop when we engage them with play?
So there are so many skills that a child can develop through play, but I'll just list a number of them and then tell you what I'm going to focus on in the Brain Boost workshop.
Cool.
So basically, children most obviously will develop their language and communication skills through play. Their social and emotional skills, their physical skills, their problem-solving skills. Think of a puzzle and how a child has to, put the pieces together and think of, this doesn't fit here, it fits there. They'll develop their literacy skills, their artistic abilities, and of course through play they can gain knowledge. But at the workshop, I'm mostly going to focus on three skills in particular, because these are considered the prime developmental skills in the early years, because without these skills, a child can't develop other skills. So these skills are communication and language, which obviously in any play scenario, a parent or an educator can know how much a child can communicate, and if they have missing vocabulary, for example. And this is a great opportunity to introduce more vocab or to show children how they can communicate effectively in a fun way where it doesn't look like it's serious work,
Makes sense, yeah.
And physical development, I mean, like I said before, Play-Doh. Through Play-Doh, you can develop fine motor skills, which are really, really important, because without you're strengthening your finger muscles. And without that, you can't pick up things. You can't hold a ball. You can't, in school, even, when you're 6, you can't hold a pencil without your fingers hurting. So the more opportunities to develop your fine motor skills, the better. And also gross motor skills, which are part of physical development, for example, like kicking a ball or dancing. Children need to move their muscles so that they're healthy, so that they're capable physically.
Right. And sorry, I cut you off. Please continue.
Yeah. So basically, and the third skill, which is my favorite skill to play with children and develop, is social and emotional skills. So basically, in order for a child to be successful as an adult, they really, really need to understand their emotions and be trained through play on how to socialize successfully. So think of grown-ups who have a lot of trouble understanding themselves or others,
Right.
This is probably an issue from childhood. And the way a parent could easily develop a child's social and emotional skills is by taking them to, let's say, the park, and having them wait for their turn so that they can slide down the slide.
Right.
So it's not, typical social behavior. You won't see grown-ups hitting each other to get on the slide. So
some grown-ups.
Maybe some.
The way we drive, Kadma, the way we drive.
Yeah, exactly. So how can you explain to a child that they need to wait for their turn? Maybe you stand next to them and say, let's count to 10 till it's your turn. So you're training them to be patient, right?
Right.
Or maybe you could say, it's really kind to share your toys, and it makes your friends happy. And in any play scenario, it's a great opportunity to label emotions and to get your child to talk about how they feel, and also to explain to them what social behavior is considered appropriate. And this is also very obvious when you do sociodramatic play. So when a child is holding a baby,
Right.
and they're, pretending they're putting them to sleep and they're being gentle,
Oh.
we can say in this instance that I love how you're being gentle with this baby because babies are fragile and we need to take care of them. Yeah,
so kind of like
play is serious work.
encouraging that kind of social awareness in a child by sort of by sort of praising or commenting on those actions. And is that the sense that, when, like you said, when you wait your turn, it makes your friends happy. When you share, it makes your friends happy. That's a nice, it's how kind of you to take care of that baby. So we empower the child to sort of start understanding these emotions a little bit better.
Exactly. And also like understanding that you are part of a group in a social context. You're one of many, and that it's always best to go for, what is best for everybody.
Right. Yes. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And Karima, I want to talk about, this, there's an element here. So there's children that are playing, but, we're talking about Brain Boost, right? So this
Right.
Friday, this Saturday, you're going to have mothers, fathers, teachers, specialists, people are going to be attending this event, this workshop. And a lot of, you talked about some of the things that you're going to be focusing in on in your session, and the importance of those three main things, those three main components of play in child development. But here's the thing, you've got these adults now in the room, and you're talking to them about play and how that's important, how important it is for also adults to engage children in play. How do we get parents and teachers and busy grown-ups to find the time to play?
That's a great question. So a lot of parents, when I do any workshop, will say to me, but I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I say is, when you're a parent, it's a privilege, and you should make time for your children because they do grow so quickly. Mm-hmm. And when we think of play and brain development and making a difference, like I referred to the brain scan. Mm-hmm. So basically, from what studies have shown, is that 20 minutes of quality play per day could make a huge difference in your child's brain development. So if you have two parents and they're each engaging their child in 10 minutes of play, I think that's doable for anybody.
Yes.
And even if you have days where you're absolutely swamped, or you need to get dinner ready, or you're just busy with life, if you create a playful environment at home where children can access toys and books and resources, and maybe a babysitter could come in if you're busy, or somebody, it doesn't have to look a certain way. Play could be taking your child to a grocery shop and getting them to pick different items that they like, and then talking about them and running around and saying, oh, now it's your turn to buy the groceries today. And you give them your card and you tell them, to play with the person selling, at the cashier. So play doesn't look a certain way, and you can incorporate play in any context, because as we said, play could be social, it could be physical, it could be anything.
Absolutely.
Really.
And I love that. You've just given such a creative solution to a problem that perhaps every single parent on the planet has. There's one thing, that, sometimes we really want our kids to be go play with your friends because I gotta sit here and finish my paper. I have to finish, I've got a meeting, I've got a Zoom call or whatever. So you really want the kids to engage with one another. But sometimes kids don't really want to play together, especially maybe when they're a bit younger, or maybe there's certain personality traits. Is that normal for kids to not want to play with others?
Yeah, it's absolutely normal. So it depends on, I wouldn't use the word normal loosely, because it'll depend on the age